Hi, I'm Justin, a ClickUp consultant, and in this video I'll be taking you through ClickUp's most useful features and how they can make your business more productive and more effective. This is an intermediate video, so I'll breeze over the basic concepts like the hierarchy and what information tasks can contain fairly quickly, and I won't go into detail on more advanced features and concepts. If you'd like to watch the beginner or advanced demos, you can do so at clickup.com. So let's jump in. So in your business there are many things to be done by many people, and we need to keep them organized and have everyone know where everything goes. ClickUp does this by having a hierarchy. If we click on spaces over here, we can see our various spaces. These are the top level kind of big categories. You can see I have one for each department here, as well as a personal space. Within spaces, we have folders. This is to further break down what goes into this overall category, or the different parts of this department. In this case, their functions. Within a folder, we can have multiple lists. Lists are what contain tasks. So again, an extra level of breaking down what parts or what types of tasks are involved in this area or part of this department. And then if we click on a list, we can see the various tasks for this particular list. And then finally, tasks can also have subtasks. These are kind of steps or parts that are even further breaking down each individual task. So we could have, say, step 1, step 2, step 3. Subtasks can also then have their own further subtasks to break it down further and further as much as you need. So for my generic software company example, I have a product and development department, a marketing department, an operations department, a sales department, customer service, and then a personal space that I'm going to put some of my own things in that aren't really related to the business itself. Within product and development, I have ideas and feedback. So this is where kind of ideas are coming in, my backlog of things to develop, my epics, and my sprints. I'm using an agile workflow here. Within marketing, I have my strategy, campaigns, the various content we're creating, the website, tracking campaigns, reporting, my promotional partners, and then routine tasks for the marketing department. Now, most people will work in just a couple of locations most of the time. So to make it easy to navigate, we have our navigation sidebar. The main part we care about right now is spaces. This is where our hierarchy lives with all of our tasks. I can click through to find the list that I need, or I can click on a folder to see all of the lists in that folder, or I can click on a space to see all of the lists in that whole space. Then we have favorites. Favorites appear above spaces here, but I like to pin them to the top. So we have this favorite bar across the top. Any location that you use often can be saved as a favorite, allowing you to quickly get back to it with one click. Here I've saved support requests as a favorite. If I was perhaps in another part of ClickUp entirely, I could immediately click on support requests and be taken straight there. This is how I navigate through ClickUp most of the time, because I spend most of my day working on the same types of tasks and activities. And then finally, we have Quick Switch. So Quick Switch can be found in this lightning bolt here, or the hotkey is K. Quick Switch allows you to search for any location or view, so we can quickly jump to them. Let's say we're looking for cancellations. I can start to type it in, find the list it's on, and anything will come up here. If we were to say, instead to go customer service, we could see that we have both a dashboard and a space for this. I can either click on it or use my mouse keys to navigate down and then hit enter to navigate to that location. Now let's talk about tasks. Now the three most important things for any task is what is it, what needs to be done, who is doing it, and when are they going to do it. So in ClickUp, we have all that information plus much more. So first we have the name of the task, and this is typically what needs to be done, perhaps as a brief overview. And then we have a description field to go into more depth. Now this is a rich text field, which means it can have embeds, extra formatting like highlighting, bold, italic, all of that, but also tables. You can embed an entire list view in here if you so wish. There are lots of options. It's very, very robust. So this is our place to describe exactly what the task is in more detail. Then in terms of who is doing the task, we have assignees. So I can assign this to myself. But if it's actually a task that multiple people are doing, we can also assign it to multiple people simultaneously. And if it's a team that's responsible, we can assign one of our predefined teams instead, or as well as. Then we want to know when is it going to be done. So for that, we have the due date. Here we can set a due date. Perhaps this will be done by Christmas. We can also set a start date if we wish. Say we'll start this on the 22nd. Also, if you have a task that's recurring and needs to happen multiple times, this can be set at the bottom of the due date picker here. So if we go set recurring and then choose, let's say we go something a little bit more complex. Let's go every 2 weeks. So we'll go to custom here and say every 2 weeks let's go twice in that week. So let's go every 2 weeks on Tuesday and Thursday. So you can see the power and flexibility available here. It's obviously much simpler to just go weekly or monthly, which we'll use more often. We can either create a new task or simply have it change the dates of this task. And we'll have it recur forever. Great. Now, when we check this task off, these are our randomized checks. We want to do them regularly. Then, once this task is refreshed, it will pop up again on its new date. So here we see it's been moved back to the new status. The due date is now the 5th of January, and the start date has moved with it. Now those 3 pieces of information are by no means the limit. There's also a whole lot of other things we can have in a single task here. So first of all, we have statuses. And this is what allows us to move tasks through a flow. We could have it as simple as to do and complete if we want, but in many cases, there's going to be multiple steps that a task needs to go through in order to be complete. In simpler flows, this might be to do, in progress, review, and done. But in more complex or more job-specific flows, there might be very specifically named steps that a job needs to go through. It could be invoice preparation, or it could be, manufacturing machine number 3 that it needs to be passed through. In this case, we've got new, assigned, waiting for response, escalate, review, and completed. So these are to do with support requests from customers. Next up, we have attachments down the bottom here. And this can be from your computer, from a storage platform. Here I've only got Google turned on, but there's also Box, Dropbox, and OneDrive. And you can attach as many documents as you like to this task, or you can even attach them to comments, which we'll talk about in a second. Thirdly, you have relationships, and this allows you to link tasks together in various ways. So first of all, you have dependencies, if this task is waiting on or blocking another task. Then you have a task relationship, and that just means that it's kind of a unstructured way of 2 tasks being connected. And we can start to pull in the various tasks that it's connected to and report on those. This is a global connection, so you can connect to any other task within ClickUp, but you can also create a structured connection. And in this case, you can give it a name. Let's say, related feature. So this customer support request is related to some feature. We can choose any task in our workspace or a task from a specific list. So let's choose specific list here. This is the structured option, and we will choose our epics. Create. And so now we can add specific tasks from that list. We can also add rollup fields to bring in information from those tasks. So let's say we want to see what the item type of that particular task is. And we can give it a custom name if we want. So now we're seeing the related task and information about it. Next up is the to-do items. So this task, randomized checks, can be broken down, as we mentioned earlier, into multiple subtasks and then levels of subtasks below those. We also have checklists. Now, subtasks are kind of full tasks. They have all the same information. You can see here it's got everything that a regular task has. However, a checklist is simpler. It's just a list of done or not done items that can be assigned to a person. So typically I'll use this for a process or for a list of things to remember. So we have here item 1, item 2, item 3. Now we can assign these to people, but that's about it. They're simply done or not done, and you can nest them. So you have, a little bit of a hierarchy of, or an organization of checklist items, but that's essentially all you're going to be doing with them. They are simpler process items. Okay, if you are using time estimating or time tracking, that's all available in ClickUp as well. So here we can estimate the time this task will take. Let's say it's going to be 5 hours. And then we can track time against it. And we either have a timer that we can use to simply get started, or we can manually enter the time that has already been spent. So let's say I've been working on this task for 2 hours, and then we can add description as to what I was doing. We can add labels as to what it was about, or any way you want to categorize your time, and whether it was billable or not. Also, if I am adding this time for in the past, I can choose when it was tracked. And the final option is range. It's the same as manual, but instead of entering a figure for the time, you're entering a start and end time. That will now be totaled, and we can see who's tracked time per person and the individual sessions. If you are using sprint points or an agile methodology, you can also enter your sprint points instead of doing time tracking. So let's jump into my sprints here, and we'll open a task. And we can see here I've got sprint points and I've got my predefined options, which you can customize as you wish. And the last couple of things, we have tags. So this is useful if you want to have a really clear and obvious way of categorizing tasks. Note that tags are always visible, whereas label custom fields do a very similar thing, but can be hidden. So typically I only use tags if I want it to be really, really clear and obvious to everyone all the time. So let's say we need a tag here for SLA, in case we have an SLA to complete this particular task or this particular feature, right? And we can now see that tag right beside the task name. And I can add it to other tasks if I need to. And then finally, we have priority. So priority and tags also can be turned on or off if you need them, but this is just to simply indicate what the priority of this task is. So if you do want to use this to let people know which tasks are high priority or urgent, that's available there. Okay, the next big piece about tasks is custom fields. So let's go to a location that has some. We'll go to our sales funnel. So here, we've got each task is a potential lead or client, and they have various types of information. Now, we wanted to include information about who they are, their contact details, as well as some kind of options they could select, and that's not part of ClickUp's task information by default. So the way we've done that is we've used custom fields. Now, if we go to add or edit custom fields here, new custom field, you can see all the different types of fields and information that can be added. So no matter what kind of information you want to include in ClickUp, there's going to be an option for you here. Really common ones are drop down, selecting one of multiple options, labels, selecting multiple of multiple options, text, number is here, relationships we'll talk about soon, checkboxes, etc. Okay, so in our sales pipeline example, what we have is a contact email field, contact name, contact phone number, the deal size, what actual services they are looking for, and then our salesperson's estimation of how likely this deal is to close, whether or not we've received payments, and then a text field for any specific specifications for these services. Now, custom fields can be added to an individual list, and they'll only have that field on tasks in that list. However, you could add them to an entire folder, meaning that they will appear on all the tasks within all the lists, or again, you could do it on the space level or even the everything level, which will add those custom fields to all tasks under that level, whichever level it is. So for example, I would like to have an item type custom field on all my product and development tasks. So we can see that over on the left, there's no current field for that. These are my existing fields. However, I have created this before. So instead of creating a new drop-down custom field and then adding my various item types, what I'm going to do is look at my custom fields library, go to drop-down. Now I've got a lot of different ones in here, and I'll find my item type custom field and use that. That's now been applied to every single task in this entire space. Okay, beyond simply storing information, the second really major component of tasks is the ability to collaborate. This is what will keep everyone on the same page, up to date, and liberate your email inbox by getting rid of the constant stream of task-based communication, which is typically out of context and hard to follow. In ClickUp, it's all in one place, and you can see it all together. So say we have a task here. This is a user story to develop a feature. Over on the right-hand side, we have our history and comments panel. So you can see here the various changes that have happened to this task over time. And also we can add a comment. So if I'm the lead person working on this and I need to perhaps bring someone else in, I can tag them. Here we'll go Corey and we'll say, can you please do whatever? And he'll get a notification about that. He can then reply and we can go back and forth collaborating as we need to work out what needs to be done to complete this task. If I need to, I can also upload files here. I can add additional formatting with / commands. and I can assign this comment to someone. So that not only is it a comment to them, but also it's a to-do item that they need to check off. I can also mention other tasks or even mention documents. If you have a ClickUp doc that you'd like to refer to, such as a SOP or meeting notes perhaps. We can add emojis. We can also record screen and link files from either ClickUp documents, again, or our online storage platforms. Okay, so let's have a look at some notifications so you can see what this actually looks like for the person receiving the comment, particularly if they are mentioned in it, which I would definitely recommend doing if you are talking to one specific person. If you're just leaving a comment, kind of like a historical comment on the task itself, no worries, you don't need to do that. So I've got 2 notifications here. And we can see I've got some older ones that are just updating me on what's happening on some tasks that I care about. But at the top here, I've got some mentions where Sam has been directing a comment towards me by mentioning me in it. So I can then immediately open this task to reply to this comment, or I can even just reply directly on the notification itself. You can also see some other things here. We can change the status, like this comment, add other reactions, stop watching it, so I'll stop getting future notifications about it, or we can simply mark it as seen and cleared. If I do want to go see my cleared notifications, they're still available and I can do so here. This one requires a little bit of work, so I'm going to leave it there till later until I've finished the action step that is being asked for there. Finally, not everyone will be able to see all tasks and all communication. If you do want to keep some things private, that's entirely possible. So by default, all of your members will be able to see everything public. Guests will only be able to see what is shared with them. And we'll talk about guests a little bit later. If you do want to make any area private, and that can be a space, a folder, a list, or even an individual task, you can find that particular item, click on the 3 dots beside it, go to sharing and permissions, and make it private. You can then choose exactly who is allowed to see that particular item. We can do that on a task here, just the same. Make private, and then choose who is allowed to see it. Once all your tasks are in ClickUp, you need a simple way of seeing what is next or pulling the information needed for your current job. This can be done with views, which allow you to see your tasks in multiple different ways, even though it's the same information, so you can have preset views to see just a particular slice of your information. Now, I've got some great ones set up in our sales pipeline here, so I'll walk you through an idea of what can be done. And this can be adjusted for literally anything, but this is what I've got for this sales workflow. So first of all, we've got an overview view, and this is just all the information, all the custom fields, and all of the leads. And that's kind of too much. Realistically, if I'm working from here, I'm going to spend too much time scrolling, opening things, trying to figure out where the information is. I want it to be much more streamlined than that. So there's a couple of tasks that need to be done along the lifetime of these leads. And I've got a view for each one. So there's different view types. So here you can see I've got list view, board view, calendar, Gantt, activity. There's a whole stack more. I'm not going to go over them all today. A lot of them are kind of specialized if you are looking at workloads, timelines, that sort of thing. The really common ones are list view, which is simple. Board view, if you do like the Kanban style layout. Here we can move people through the stages. Calendar view, if you are looking at things over time. And Gantt view, if you do like Gantt charts. Okay, I'll stick with list views for now. So the first one I have is my appointment setting view. And this is only going to show me tasks where an appointment needs to be set based on the status it is currently in. It also shows me only their contact details, which is what I need to set the appointment. So nothing else. I don't need to scroll. I don't need to click on anything. I don't even need to open these tasks. The information is all right there. So very quick to get my work done. Then I've got today's meetings, and this is filtered to show only where it's a pitch meeting status, which means it's ready for a meeting, and the due date is today, meaning that meeting is today. Now, I don't actually have any tasks that have meetings today, so no worries, I'll move on. Next one is invoicing. So these are all the clients who need to be invoiced, and that we're waiting for them to make their payment. We can see we've got some in the invoice status, some in the done status. But in both cases, we've not received a payment from them based on this checkbox. And again, we have just the information visible that I'll need to create the invoice. The executive view, this is just filtering for high value deals. So let's say our deal size is greater than 30,000. And this is the ones that perhaps the executive or lead salespeople will be working on. Then we have our servicing view, which is just all of the won deals and what jobs or services they've purchased. So this is kind of the things we need to move on to our team for fulfillment. There are also some non-task views. So we've got here chat views, and this is just a place for extra communication. Perhaps we need communication about this whole list. So maybe how we could run our sales pipeline differently, or suggested improvements, maybe requests for training or help. That could kind of be in a chat view. And I think this is above the task level. If we have task-related communication, we definitely want it to be on that task. So in this case, it would be about this particular lead. But if it's not about a particular task, it can be in a chat view. Then we have docs, which we'll get to later, embeds, which are just going to pull in any kind of content from outside of ClickUp, and forms, which we'll also get to later. Forms are very useful for having information come into ClickUp. So with views, you can see how we can have multiple ways of organizing the same information to suit different people, or even to suit the same person at different times of the day, depending on what job they're doing. We can even take that a little bit further by using a feature called tasks in multiple lists. So here, let's go into our epics. So we have user stories, things that users would like us to solve or fix, or features they'd like us to create. And we can see up here that it's in the product and development space, the epic folder, and the epic one list. But it is also in the sprint one list. So it appears in two locations, but it is still one task. So if I make any changes to this task, I'll be able to see those changes in both locations. But what that means is we can organize them in epics. So we can organize them by kind of like the category of what they are. We can also pull them into a do next type list. So anyone who's familiar with agile methodology will know what sprints are. So you can have a task live in a sprint and also live in an epic. Another really common use case for this is if you have, say, a company structure, like a customer service layout here, and support requests, but I want to see just my personal tasks. So what I can do is choose the tasks that I need to work on and put them in my personal to-do list. So these tasks don't live here. They all live somewhere in the proper structure, but I'm gathering them in my own little list here. So you can see user story 6, that actually lives in epic 2. Let's jump a few ahead here. Let's go to check kitchen snack levels, one of my to-do items. That lives in daily tasks, but again, I've pulled it into my own little personal list. So many ways of using this, but the key point is that you can choose how to view information, and you can view it in multiple ways at the same time. That's a really key part of what ClickUp allows you to do that most other programs struggle with. Okay, now let's jump into form view because it's really interesting as well. So submissions, requests, or ticketing systems can also be brought into a seamless workflow in ClickUp with form views. So these create a form. Let's just have a look at an example. So I've got a bugs list here in my backlog. So this is any customer that kind of finds an issue with our software and wants to let us know about it, which is really helpful. So this is a form view. These create a form that is mapped to task fields that can then be distributed within your company or even outside of it to people without a ClickUp account. When they fill the form in and then hit submit, it will become a task in that list with all of the information that they filled out in those various fields, mostly as custom fields. So we can see here with my submit a bug form, I have the task name, which is I'm going to ask them for a brief description of what the bug is. I've got my task description with more details, my priority and an attachment. And then if I want to, I can add custom fields for additional questions. I might use my item type question to say, what are you reporting? Then when I grab the public URL of this form, we can see what it looks like. So here they'll fill in the description, more details, select an urgency, attach any documents that they need to, and then choose what it is that they're reporting. So this will be perfect for requests for features, design, or IT support, submissions of any type, or to create a ticketing system for support, bugs, whatever you need, which works really well with statuses to create a flow. So once the report has come in, we can create a set of statuses. Here it's just to do and complete. We can make it far more complex and kind of take it through. Let's have a look at a Scrum one. So kind of like the various statuses of, we're investigating this, we've found the bug, we've addressed the bug, we've communicated with the customer, okay, it's all resolved and we close it. So you can kind of have whatever flow makes most sense for your particular workflow. Now, we also need to look at what happens if we need to edit tasks in bulk. So let's jump into our support requests here. If we do need to perhaps like change the due date on a number of these tasks all at once, we could go through and select it individually, but it's going to take a long time. So what we prefer to do is select multiple, either by clicking on the circle beside each one, or we can hold Shift and then select the bottom task, and all of them will be automatically selected. Now we have a bar up the top here called the multitask toolbar, and any of these options will apply to all of the tasks that we've selected. So in the case of due date, we can say set due date as Wednesday, and then when we hit close, that will be populated for all of those tasks. This is really helpful to quickly change details or set fields for large numbers of tasks at once. Next up, I'd like to show you templates. So anything in ClickUp can be templated, meaning you can save it and then reuse it later on. So this could be an individual task. If you say have a description or custom field set that you want to reuse, you can simply save that as a template and then use it later on. But you can also do that exact same thing with a view or with an entire list, entire folder, or an entire space. So here we can save this entire space as a template and then reuse it. So this might be really commonly used if you have a particular structure for a new client, new project, any sort of repeating structure, or if you just have a certain way of creating tasks that you want everyone to follow, you can have all of your staff use the same template each time they create a new task. If you'd like to see all of your existing tasks, you can simply go into any place where you can save a template and go to Browse Templates. Here I have a whole bunch of templates of different types saved that I can look through. I can also see the community templates. So these ones are created by ClickUp or submitted by other people, and I can choose which use cases I'm looking for. So templates allow for large-scale structure to be standardized and set up in moments, anything from new projects or clients, to new initiatives, or to day-to-day elements. Another great feature on ClickUp is automation. Automation in ClickUp will trigger when you take some sort of action and can then take multiple following actions based on some filters or just all the time. So this can be created on an individual list to only trigger for the tasks in those lists, or it can be created at a higher level to trigger for all of the tasks in an entire space or folder. So here I'll create a automation on the customer service space. I'll click on the little automation button under the space name, and we'll go add automation. There's some quick options here to simply just always add assignees for tasks that are created, or always add watchers, but I'll do something a little bit more complex to show you. So first of all, we've got categories here. We can look through a bunch of preset recipes, which might be useful to you. And automations also apply to our integrations if you do use Bugsnag, Calendly, GitHub, or Twilio. But for now, I'll keep it to the basic ClickUp ones. I'll add a custom automation here, so I can simply select my trigger and select my action. And what I'm going to do is when the status changes from anything, I don't care what it was before, to specifically escalate, then I want to add a comment. So here I'll say add a comment, and we'll mention someone in here. So perhaps Sam is our manager. We want to make sure they're aware. So we'll say this task is being escalated. Please review. Okay. And then we'll create. So that automation now exists. We can turn it on or off, or edit it and delete it later on. And that's in our Manage tab. So if we go back to Browse, we can then create another automation. This time, let's create one that when when the priority changes, it assigns someone. So we'll go priority changes from anything to, let's say, high. And so for high priority tasks, we want to change the assignee. Great. And we'll choose Corey. So we want to make sure that he's aware of this high priority task. And it's as simple as that. Now we'll create another automation here. Third one, let's say when task is created. So we'll find that trigger. Task is created, add the watcher. So a watcher is someone who will get notifications for this task. So we'll say we'll add watchers. I want to be notified about it, and also Sam. So we'll both become watchers. But let's say we don't want this to happen for every single task created. Let's just say, let's add a condition. So we'll say only when the priority is equal to urgent. So when a task is created, if the priority is urgent, then Sam and I will both become watchers. Perfect. Now, another big part of ClickUp is documents. So we've got this whole docs space here, and we can look through our various documents, or I'm actually going to create a new one. So in my document, I can give it a name. Let's say this is company SOPs. And then we've got again, a rich text editing field. So here we can embed things. We can have a list view in here. We can create a table of contents, tables, all of our text, images, everything else that we want. Now, with docs, we also have pages. So that's page 1. We can also have multiple pages. Page 2 and page 3. And then those pages can become chapters. So they can actually have pages within them. So let's say this is page 2.1, and then we can have page 2.2. We can also go down to 5 levels. So this will be page 2.1.1, etc., etc. So each of those pages can have their own content, but then they can also have pages below them as well. So you can end up with a very in-depth kind of tree structure, wiki-like document here, or you can keep it real simple and just have a single page. So if we delete all of this, then we've just got our one single page with our one single text area. Now I've actually got an existing document that I've created, so I'll show you what that looks like once it's all filled out. So on our operations space, we've got our company SOPs, and here we've got a bunch of different processes, and we've actually got 13 pages kind of going through different things for different parts. So docs can be added as a view like we have here, or they can simply live in the docs section, whatever your preference is. Another really great use for a document would be meeting notes. And this is one I often use myself. So I'm often talking with clients. So in my sales space, I have a call notes document. And every time I have a new customer, I simply create a new page for that customer. Now, sometimes customers kind of fall off the page, or we've already completed that deal. So what I'll do is I'll have an archive page. And then once the customer is finished and I'm no longer going to be talking to them or having more meetings with them, I'll put them under that archive page so that can then be collapsed and they're out of the way. But here I've got customer 1, I've got my initial call with them, my follow-up call, and then I kind of put the summary of notes on the main page itself. So that way I'm kind of tracking multiple meetings. You can do the same thing. Instead of having different customers, you might have a meeting type. So we could say like all hands meeting, and then you can have multiple pages for each date. So maybe this is the 1st of 2nd, 2021 meeting, notes for that, and just keep adding more pages for each different meeting. Now I did mention I'd talk about guests a little bit. So in ClickUp, you have members and guests. Members kind of have all the functionality and they can kind of see everything that's public. Guests will only see what's shared with them. So let's say we have an outside developer helping us out with this one particular user story. We can go into sharing and permissions on that task, and we can add someone. So here we can share it with someone who already exists. Now Shane has this orange square, which means he's a guest, but we can just type in an email to invite a new guest as well. And we can choose what access they should have. So in this case, I want them to only be able to comment, so they can view and comment, but they won't be able to edit or have full access. Now, guests are free, which is a really big thing. So if you have someone who only needs to participate in a little bit of ClickUp, they only need to work on a couple of tasks, they don't need to create any structure or do any of the more advanced things, and they don't need to see everything, then that's probably a good case for them to be a guest. Now you can have as many view-only guests as you want. If you do have the various permissions, then you have a certain limit. And your limit of guests is to do with your plan and how many seats you have. The more seats you have, the more guests you're allowed. Cool, so we'll invite this person as a guest, and they now have access to this one particular task, and they're allowed to comment on it. Now those same sharing and permission settings can be applied to members as well. So let's go to, let's say actually a whole list. So on our our Epics folder, we'll go into sharing and permissions. We'll have a look at who has access to this. So it's all of our members. Then we can say, actually, Sam doesn't need to, it's okay that Sam can see this, but they don't need to edit it. So let's say we'll limit Sam to comment only permissions. That can be done with any member on any location, either task, list, folder, or space. Okay, finally, easy mode. If you do have guests or team members who don't need to use the full capabilities of ClickUp, you can simply teach them the few basics. So what I would suggest is that they use home view. So as I mentioned before, home view allows them to just see the lists, dashboards, docs, tasks, and comments that are kind of relevant to them. So it's kind of an overview of all their relevant things. Then they have inbox, which is just tasks that is assigned to them, and they can entirely work out of here. If they don't have anything complex assigned to them, and they don't need to learn anything else about ClickUp. For anyone who's more of a power user or even just wants to use views, and most people will get a lot of value out of that, they will probably start to use the hierarchy and tasks. But for guests and members who don't need to do much, home view is really great for that. Okay, and then finally, let's look at dashboards. So dashboards are your reporting feature, showing you overviews of different types of information. So you can have as many dashboards as you want. Here I've just created some for different departments. So my product and development one, I've got a portfolio widget showing us all the lists. So here are my epics and also my sprints, what status they're in, what the status of the tasks in them are in. So we can see how much is complete, the overall progress, how many are overdue. And in this case, I've added sprint points because it's relevant. There are other fields you could add instead if you prefer to use time track, time remaining, or milestones. Okay, then I've got our urgent tasks. This is just highlighting key tasks that management might want to be aware of and kind of keep an eye on. And then we've got some counters saying how many overdue tasks, feature requests, and bugs we have. We can see how our tasks are distributed by assignee, make sure no one's overloaded. And then we have a classic burn up chart to see the changes in scope and also the changes in completion. Now we've got a whole bunch of different widgets in here, so you can kind of add as many things as you like. Widgets are really, really good for summarizing task data within ClickUp. So anything that you want, you can probably find a way of doing it. Okay, next we have our customer service dashboard. So here I'm just looking at how many tickets we have remaining, bug reports remaining, and cancellations remaining. Then we've got all of our escalation and tickets that need to be reviewed. So again, really good for management to quickly see where issues might be and what they need to look at. We can see how many tickets people are getting done. So who's kind of assigned themselves to how many tickets, and we can see the percentages. And then we've also got a little widget here for lead time. See how quickly are we processing support requests once they come in. And then finally, we have a time and status widget. So this shows us how long tasks have been in the different statuses. So it's particularly good to see if things are kind of getting stuck in a particular one. So we can see here, we're waiting for response quite a lot. That's probably reasonable, but also there's kind of a sign stage, which is an early stage, probably too much time there. We want people to kind of be getting onto things quite quickly after they've been assigned to them. Okay, and that is it for our demo today. Hopefully that's been really useful. ClickUp is an incredibly powerful software that can do many, many things, but it's really focused on doing the key workflow things very well to help you understand what needs done, who's doing it, when it'll be done by, and to give everyone really clear, simple views to see what needs done and the information they need to do it. All right, my name's Justin, and I'll see you next time.